Indiana has more coal ash ponds than any other state in the nation. Last week, we explained how this power plant byproduct has come under scrutiny after a coal ash pond in North Carolina breached and leaked into a nearby river. This week, in part 2 of our series, Jimmy Jenkins takes us to southwestern Indiana and the neighborhood of East Mount Carmel, where residents say contaminants leaked into their water and are endangering their health.
Coal ash is one of the main byproducts of burning coal. Power companies usually store it on site in large ponds and pits, but its storage is largely unregulated. In 2007 and again in 2008, 30 million gallons of water and coal ash spilled into the White River when levees at the Indianapolis Power and Light Eagle Valley station failed.
People say, so what? Tell that to the people who live right downstream here, who probably fish in this river. You know, 30 million gallons of toxic coal ash, that's poisoning the river, that's poisoning the fish that live here, and poisons, people who eat it.
At the Duke Energy Gibson plant in the southern part of the state, there was no breach. Instead, the contamination happened over time as coal ash that was stored in a massive unlined pit at the Duke plant leached into the water table.
Several of their surface impoundments were leaching boron from them and were impacting drinking water wells nearby.
Evansville, a big auction.
Wayne Burns' mother and father lived across from the plant in the neighborhood of East Mount Carmel for a decade.
When we started out, the water was crystal clear. Beautiful drinking water. I mean, tastes really, really, really good. Some of the best water in the county. When the power plant came in, it gradually started becoming worse. You could smell a little bit of it, and then it got to where it smelled like rotten eggs, and the water would actually turn brownish, and at the last, it started turning black.
In response, Duke Energy began supplying the residents of East Mount Carmel with bottled water. Eventually, the company paid to build a water line from a nearby town to supply the neighborhood with clean drinking water. But Burns thinks the damage was already done. His mother died of kidney failure and his father shortly after of cancer. Burns says Duke admitted the coal ash basin near his mother's house was unlined. He tried to sue Duke to get the company to line the basins and conduct more testing, but was unsuccessful.
You know, they have so many lawyers and they have so many politicians and whatever that backs them, and I don't think that just the average person can do anything about it. Matter of fact, I just about gave up.
Duke officials say they recently performed an internal survey of their ash basins and are taking steps to deal with coal ash in a safer way, like converting to dry handling.
That is the method that we are converting to across our Indiana system. When your ash is dry handled, it is stored in a lined landfill. The ash basins with water are different than that.
Prodiger says Duke monitors its coal ash ponds and the surrounding groundwater and regularly checks the structural safety of its levees and dams. But dry storage pits are still susceptible to leaching from rainwater. Tracy Branham of the Indiana Geological Survey has been conducting research that shows covering coal ash impoundments or storing it underground in coal mines is actually safer.
Rainwater leaches out more than the actual groundwater does. That's what we found so far. So that sort of suggests, because a lot of people used to say, don't put it below the water table because you'll get a lot of leaching out. But we're not finding that. We're finding you get more leached out from rainwater than you get when you put it below the water table.
Branham says the key is not to store too much coal ash in one site and to find other uses for the byproduct.
That's why beneficial use is important, because the less you have to put back, the more you can beneficially use, then the better off you are.
The beneficial reuse industry recycles coal ash into things such as roofing shingles, wallboard, and concrete. The coal ash is used as a filler to make the concrete stronger.
Fly ash and cement together become a cementatious material. That in turn is the glue, is what makes concrete become hard.
Concrete used in the new section of I-69 is full of coal ash. Environmental advocates like beneficial reuse, but they say it only deals with a small amount of the millions of tons of coal ash produced every year. The Environmental Protection Agency does not designate coal ash as a hazardous material, and there is no federally designated limit for safe levels of boron in drinking water. But a recent court decision may force the EPA to develop long-awaited federal guidelines for coal ash ponds that state agencies like the Department of Natural Resources and the Department of Environmental Management could enforce. But until then, the coal ash pile at the Gibson plant continues to grow, and Wayne Burns fears that not enough is being done to prevent future water contamination.
My mother and father have been drinking that for years, and which I'm not saying that's what killed my mother, but I don't think it really did her any good.
Hoosier Environmental Council Policy Director Tim Maloney joins us now for more. I have right here with me the new report from the Hoosier Environmental Council that just released this week, and some startling statistics. Indiana's record of spills and drinking water contamination among the worst in the nation, and some areas rated high as 5 hazard, meaning there is a risk to human life in the event of failure. How did it get to this point?
Well, it's been a pattern and a long-term record of state agencies as well as the federal government to just fail to come to grips with a known dangerous waste stream in the United States, one of our largest waste streams, and yet largely due to the influence of the electric utility industry and the coal mining industry, they simply have not adopted meaningful standards to govern how these wastes are handled and disposed of.
Now, there is some debate whether or not coal ash should be designated as hazardous material. Where does that debate lie?
The debate still goes on. What the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has done in their proposed rules that are still pending with the federal government is to propose 2 different alternatives to regulating these wastes. One would one proposal would classify them as special waste, but still treat them in terms of the disposal standards like it's hazardous waste, and that is the alternative rule proposal that we support. These wastes have been shown to leach toxic metals at level of concern when they come into contact with water, and the record of environmental damage and health problems is well documented, and we need strong enforceable federal standards.
And we talked in that story about reuse industry. What would it mean to those companies if it were to be designated coal ash as a hazardous material?
Well, the special waste rule proposal would exempt certain beneficial uses from that hazardous waste designation, and in our view, those legitimate beneficial uses would be the encapsulated uses like we're talked about in the story of it being mixed in with concrete. The risk is much lower for those kind of uses than using it as a fill material or an unconsolidated material that again could be exposed to water and the leaching process that creates the toxic contaminants. So beneficial use is legitimate, but we need to be careful how we do it.
You mentioned the EPA just a few seconds ago. Is there a recent federal ruling that may take effect?
Yes, in a court case that was brought by a number of environmental groups complaining about the delay in the EPA's rulemaking, the EPA has agreed to complete these new federal rules by December 19th, 2014.
Okay, well, thank you very much for adding to the discussion today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Pleasure to be here.